Hey everybody, Sunday's Fun Day. Why? We're doing 2 batches of Kolsch today, one end to end basically. Gonna start with a little overlap. When this batch, the first batch, is chilling, I'll actually be mashing in the second batch, and that's gonna save me about 2 hours overall, so I'm happy about that. And then tomorrow, I'm probably doing another batch. I just haven't decided what yet. It'll probably be the American Pale Ale. I don't think I've done a video on that before, so we'll do that. So anyway, stay tuned. I've still got a lot to do. It's like a mess in here. So be back in a minute. All right, the first step is going to be add 3 gallons of water at 168 degrees. So we'll just start. And notice I'm using heat tubing. If you were to use the regular tubing, you'd obviously have issues, but this is heat resistant. So once we get to 3 gallons, we'll cut that off and then we will mash in. And it won't take long to get here. So we'll be back during the mash-in. Okay, so all we're going to do here is we're going to slowly dump the grain into the mash tun and slowly stir it and not push it down into the screen, because then you'll probably get a stuck sparge. But instead, just make sure as we stir very slow, make sure there's no dough balls, because that's going to be a problem too. It's a little precarious on this ladder. Okay. I'm just agitating it as I go very slowly in there. Once again, we were at 168, a little over 168 with our water in the mash tun. It's a bit tedious, but not as bad as cleaning it. That is the worst part. And just as a little bit of a review, today the Kolsch batches are going to differ from the original formula in only one way, and that's in the new dry yeast that's supposed to be a dry Kolsch yeast. All my other batches were made with the Y yeast, liquid Kolsch yeast. So I'm pretty excited to see how this turns out. That's all she wrote. So all I have to do is put the lid on at this point, which I have. And this is supposed to be at about 152 for an hour. And it looks like at this point I'm at just a hair over 150, which that should be good enough. And hopefully it maintains the heat. So the next step will be to start moving the wort down into the boil kettle while we fly sparge on top. So we'll be back after an hour when this has finished up. Okay, our hour wait is over, so I'm going to start to move the wort down into the oil kettle. And the whole purpose of this step, you can see I've got a little kettle in here, is to catch any of the first runnings that have grain in it, because you really want that running clear before you put it in your boil kettle. Otherwise you're going to get kind of disappointed in all the grainy nature of your brew, and that you don't need. Plus you don't want to be boiling grain. That's going to give you a very sour flavor. So at this point I'm just trying to dial this in so it's kind of a slow run. And I'm going to check as that's happening to see how much grain is coming through. And there was quite a bit at first. There's very little now, which means that we're going to get a decent grain bed here. Now the next step, once I've taken quite a bit out, because I want to make sure that this is going to be a clear beer, I'm going to pour this back in on top of the grain bed very carefully over a spoon, so I don't drill down through the grain bed and start pushing grain out again. But then we're ready to actually start the sparge. And the point of the sparge is to have the same amount of water coming into your mash tun up above as you're taking out down below. In this formula, I have to sparge with 4 3/4 gallons at 168. So that's going to take a while. The longer you can sparge, the better. And at the same time, you're going to want to take your refractometer and take readings, not to get below 1.01. Once you do that, if you continue to sparge once you get below that number, you're going to start to draw tannins and other undesirable flavors into your beer. So here's my best advice. If you get down to that point where you're getting kind of low, just fill up with water. Your gravity will probably be fine, your pre-boil gravity, but don't continue to go saying, well, I haven't reached my pre-boil gravity, so I've just got to keep going. That's the wrong decision. So keep an eye on it, and you'll be good. We had a little surge of grain there. Okay, so I think we're probably pretty good at this point to move that up and to start the sparge. So we'll be back in a second after I pour that grain in to the mash tun again. Okay, as you can see, we are moving down into the boil kettle from the mash tun, and things are going pretty well actually. I will try to get you a view of what's happening in the mash tun really quick. Trying to match the fluid in, the water in, with the wort coming out. And as I mentioned, this step should take about an hour. Sorry about the shaky camera. And I'll be doing readings in the meantime. Once I get done with that and we're up to where we need to be for pre-boil, we'll go ahead, start the boil, and add the hops. And we'll be on an hour boil when that happens. So with some cleanup in there in the meantime to get ready for the second batch. So that's it for now. Back at the time when the boil starts. Okay, we have completed filling the boil kettle up, and our pre-boil gravity was a 1.040. The target was a 1.041, so we're pretty close. And we'll just wait for this to boil, and then we'll add our hops. The first set of hops will be Tettnang 1 ounce. Okay, the boil is starting. It's just starting a slow roll, so I'm going to throw the hops in, and those go in for the entire 60 minutes. The next step is going to be at about the 40-minute mark when the chiller is going to go in, and then at the 50-minute mark we'll throw in the next set of hops, and then 10 minutes after that we'll terminate the boil, and we'll start to chill this down while we mash in our second batch. So back in a bit. All right, I have put the chiller in, And 10 minutes from now, we'll be throwing in the second set of hops, which are crystal. And those will be in for 10 minutes, then terminate the boil and start the chiller and mash in my second batch of the day. So that's about where we're at. All right, now it's time to put in the last set of hops. These are crystal hops, 1 ounce. It's 10 minutes. Okay, I have the chiller going. And it's not completely in yet. I'm making sure everything runs without leaks at this point. For those of you that probably remember, I actually use my swimming pool as the water supply for the chiller. So I'm coming out the back pump. It comes through the copper tube, the chiller itself, and then gets discharged back into the pool again. And right now the pool temperature is at 53. So things should start to drop relatively quickly, and I can get about the business of mashing in my second batch. Alright, you can see, hopefully, I'm actually going to mash in now my second batch while the chiller is still running underneath me. Now what I've done is I put the lid on the kettle just to protect it in case any dust comes over that way. I don't want that in my brew. So I'm just going to go through the same process here of mashing in and then waiting an hour, transferring it over to the boil kettle, doing the boil, doing the hops, and that'll complete the brew day. So this is really where I'm going to end this video, except maybe to come back and tell you where my finished gravity was on the second batch and whatnot. Actually, I will come back before that because we're going to aerate the wort on the first batch when it's chilled and throw in the new yeast, the Koln yeast, which is the dry Kolsch yeast, and that'll be it. So see you in a bit. All right, we're at about 75 degrees. So we're going to run that down, that wort down into the fermentation vessel. And as soon as that's done, we'll aerate it and we will pitch that yeast, the new yeast. Now, they have directions on the back for basically doing it in a starter, but I looked online and like most of the dry yeast, you can just sprinkle it on top, and that's my plan. So I'll be back when it's time to aerate the wort and pitch the yeast. All right, let's aerate the wort. Doesn't have to be anything violent. Just enough to get the yeast started. That's probably good enough. Okay, for those of you that thought, hey, you missed a step, you were right. I have not pitched the yeast yet. So let's get that in there. Yeah, they've got this thing sealed down pretty far into the yeast. I'm using a scissors that I actually sanitized. You don't want to be doing anything at this point that's going to contaminate your batch. I'm going to just get this moving a hair, just so the yeast hopefully disperses a little bit. Well, that's about it. We've got that one put away. I've got about 10 minutes left on the mash for the second batch, and so I'm probably maybe 2 hours away from, 2.5 hours away from being totally done today. Which, like I said, saves me 2 hours, but I'll tell you, my personal feeling about this, it's not very enjoyable. There's just a lot of futzing around to make things work the right way. But, you know, if you have to do things quick and kind of build your stock up, it's not impossible. The other thing that's would be more advantageous, just buy a bigger brew kettle and do a 10-gallon batch, which is probably the direction I'll head maybe next year. So anyway, as far as this batch goes, it hit the head on the final gravity, which was supposed to be 1.051, and that's exactly what it hit. So that's good. We'll see how this yeast works. Probably won't kick off as quick as the liquid yeast, but who knows. And then a couple weeks from now, I'll be learning that. About a month from now, we'll give it a shot, see how it tastes. And I've had enough of the other Kolsch that I'll know if it doesn't quite hit the same notes. So until then, hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you for the next batch. This has been a Matty Boy presentation. Say bye-bye, Matty.